Having calmly considered the theme of the second biennial award ceremony of the Flagship Journal, and having expressed the need to establish the factual status of Bille Kingdom, we shall now commence the address by establishing the Bille Kingdom status before considering the consolidation of the Bille Kingdom developmental status. Bille Kingdom became a reality and found expression in its present location east of the Niger Delta sometime in the 9th century AD under the leadership of Queen Ekpakiama. Her contemporaries who took flight with her and their groups from their erstwhile community were the Kobo people, Ogoloma people, and the Obusuma and Kalasuma people, who moved to the upper part of the same island where Obuobulaye settled. It was the meeting of these two groups later that gave birth to what is now known as Swakete, because they realized that they were people of the same stock and extraction. The above named groups of people moved out from a settlement or community in which the Bille people call Akpata Bille over a dispute that rocked and threatened their survival and unity at the time. So they dispersed in sections or groups from the set place and moved in different directions and settled in the places we now find them today. Consistent with the definition and structure of a kingdom, Queen Ekpakiama of Bille Kingdom led about 11 distinct communities of people with common characteristics or interests when living together at Akpata Bille to found the present location. The people who followed her in that journey were Obokira and his group of people, Obibila, Obimon, Obosia, Obangola, Obugofa, Obabekiri, Obasuka, Obusera, Obuda, Obuasa. Each of these communities was highly organized and represented a cluster of people under the leadership of a Ekpakiama. They were bound by the same cultural values, as well as common titular deity known as Aoba. The people all lived and existed together in their respective blocks or communities with their leadership, with their distinct leadership, but all under the sovereign leadership of Queen Ekpakiama. Some other communities were later founded by the Bille people, e.g. Jikama, Tumbama, Nakotuama, Enesrama, Ekpakiama, Rekama, Oguama, just to mention a few. All with their plantations and fishing settlements were still under the sovereign rulership of Queen Ekpakiama. Suffice it to mention the migration of Oguamogo and Ogueroa, who moved out of the present settlement to found Ayam and Peterside, One and Kalasera, who was chased out of Bille Kingdom and settled at Kolat. While we are in one breath saying that we migrated from Akpata Bille to the present Bille, out of the present Bille to other communities have been born now. So the story is going. In the quest to exist peaceably in their present settlement, the people of Bille Kingdom, under the reign of King Biennial, had to subdue hostile and aggressive neighbors, about 45 different communities, and made them vassal to the Bille Kingdom, thus earning Bille Kingdom the status of an empire state, whereby the vassals were compelled to render annual tributes to Bille Kingdom. The foregoing escapades by Biennial should ordinarily entitle the Amayambo stool of Bille Kingdom as a classless stool, or to say the least, giving a first-class status as has been given to Bille's contemporaries like Nembe, Opreka, and the Ibanese respectively. In acknowledging the distinctness and dominance of Bille Kingdom, H. Wenike Brown West, in his book, A Short Genealogical History of Amakri I, and the recordings of the oral tradition as handed down in Kalabare clan meeting of 18th April 1935 stated thus, and I quote, "Before Amakri, Agbani Oku of Boni and Agbani Ejike of Bille were the strongest among those of the Saltwater. The dominance of Bille Kingdom was also acknowledged in slave trade era, as was confirmed by G.I. Jones 1963 and Professor Robin Hawkins in the book Oral Tradition and Corroborative Materials, Evidence, Captured Thoughts, stated that between 1500 and 1600. Bille was a prominent neighboring Delta village. Bille was as prominent as New Calabar and Bonny in slave trade, and that Bille got his slave by sacking neighboring Delta states rather than by trading with the hinterland. See further, K. Williams et al. In their book titled The Ejo Element in Barbic Dutch, which concluded from the account of Dapper 1668 and Jones 1963 thus. This means that we have reason for assuming the existence of trade with Dutch in Calabar slave at Bille, then an independent statelet. Suffice it to state that the historical perspective does not only point to our dominance, but it indubitably also points to our distinctness, particularly the influence of the leadership authority, which was at the time referred to as statelet, all of which eminently confirms the Bille Kingdom Empire as strong and untouchable, so we pointing to our contemporaries at the time, all of whom are acknowledged kingdoms. What is the gist here? We are not speaking or pointing to this history as Bille people, but we have sufficiently relied on recorded history by foreign authors to say that indeed Bille is a kingdom of its own, and the influence we exerted was also pointed out by the foreign authors. Of specific note to me is a pointer to the fact that while others went into the hinterlands to get slaves, we captured our adversaries around them and traded them off to show our strength. That also, if you look at it carefully, may account for our size. I say so because if you look at the slave trade and its abolition in 1886, you will not doubt the fact that because of that effect, those who are caught up in the slave that could not go back to the hinterland caused population explosion in the Calabari axis, in the Bonny axis, and in the Okreka axis. We were not trading with the hinterland. We were sacking our neighbors for that kind of trade. So we kept our content intact, and it has adversely affected our size. And perhaps that is the reason it is difficult for people to accept that we are strong or we are prominent. You know, it takes numbers to make people appreciate you. Consolidating the Bille Kingdom status. That is the third point, and this is the meat. No, it's not the meat. This is the third point here now. The above phrase seems to me to clearly give the impression of an existing kingdom status that needs to be consolidated or begs for consolidation. The same serves as pointer to where we were as against the direction we are headed. Also, where we were and where we are headed can only be measured in terms of the developmental strides then and now. Therefore, there is need to establish what we have or where we are before talking about the consolidation of the Bille Kingdom developmental status in the 21st century. This is more so as the consolidation of our kingdom status involves our pursuit to attain what I will characterize as the illusory and utopian perfect state of development, which is a continuum. The present developmental agenda of the Bille people was born out of individual contribution towards communal effort, where men and women contributed their income derived from labor with steady hands at the time. Substantially, the developmental effort at the time were focused more on building pair toilets for men and women, the building of town hall for community meeting, and much later the building of churches, which served as foundation for our schools, before schools were formally built and approved by government. In the mid and late 50s, commercial quantities of crude oil deposits were discovered within the Bille Kingdom territory. The incidents attracted and led to the emergence of multinational oil companies like the Royal Dutch Shell Oil Exploration Company, which came to extract oil within the Bille Kingdom territory. Oil business thus became an alternative and a stronger source of income for the Bille Kingdom developmental agenda. It was so because, first, Royal Dutch Shell acquired our land on lease for a fixed sum and paid money. Second, and consistent with the magnitude of the operations of the oil exploration companies, and in keeping with the need for maintaining their corporate social responsibility with our host communities, they gave back to the communities agreed projects, cash and work chances, which aided development. Also, quite apart from spills, where their operation truncated community fishing activities, they compensated the community as well as individuals for loss of occupation. These became viable sources of income, all of which aided the articulation and directed the drawing up of further developmental agenda that enriched the Bille Kingdom developmental activities at the time. Bille Kingdom has always prioritized its development over and above every other consideration in its scale of preference. For example, Bille Kingdom prioritized education by using funds derived from these companies to send their sons and daughters to the United States and the United Kingdom to pursue education as a people. Our quest for development hit the heat when in 2014 Bille Kingdom held a development summit tagged the Bille Kingdom Vision 2040 plan. That Vision 2040 development agenda was not only bold, it was also ambitious. It is described as ambitious because it did not only seek to adopt the United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals, but actually fastidiously implemented the said Sustainable Developmental Goals in the most ethical and professional manner. It is important to add here that consistent with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the Bille Kingdom SDGs were designed to alleviate poverty. Inherent in the Vision 2040 agenda, as practiced in Bille Kingdom, is a district planning and prioritizing by phasing developmental activities with available funds with definite timeline, thus leaving no abandoned project commenced under the said Vision 2040 agenda. Consequently, the project vision is focused mostly on physical infrastructural development to bring the desired facelift of the kingdom by doing internal roads, an elaborate landing jetty at the forefront of the Bille Kingdom. The compelling reason is to create access and enhance the mobility of men, goods and services generally in promoting commerce. While we are making stints with available cash inflow from oil and gas sector for the development of our kingdom, happily the National Assembly passed the Petroleum Industry Act and dedicated Chapter 3 thereof to the development of the host communities. Prominent in the Act is the creation of the Host Communities Developmental Trust, HCDT. The said HCDT has highly professional departments put in the hands of competent professionals whose role is to articulate kingdom development needs as well as ensure the timeless delivery of projects with a 3% of the operating cost of the immediate oil producing company or companies within Bille Kingdom territory. We believe you will agree no less with us that the intervention of the Petroleum Industry Act will serve to boost the Bille Kingdom developmental agenda. It will only require a deliberate developmental policy direction, such as drawing up definite plans, particularly prioritizing the set plans according to or in order of the most pressing kingdom project. Although we are fortunate to have two surplus, that is companies within our territory, namely the Bille Kingdom Host Community Development Trust and the Ejike Host Community Development Trust. The latter, to our knowledge, is still largely at the documentation stage. Therefore, consistent with the Bille Kingdom Vision 2040 Development Plan and in applying the principles of development enshrined therein, the Bille Kingdom Host Communities Development Trust has drawn up a developmental project for the kingdom in consultation with the Amayanabo and the Bille Kingdom Chiefs Council. Therefore, conscious of the need for prioritizing the developmental agenda of the kingdom, the HCDT has prioritized power resource as the most needed developmental element in our kingdom. This is because power resource is central to most or majority of small-scale businesses that go on within the Bille Kingdom. Also taken along by the HCDR, continuous development of our road network infrastructure, bursary for students on the human capital development side, women empowerment for employment and wealth creation, safe water projects on the environmental health sector, to mention just a few. I will at this point commend you to follow up with the HCDT on her portal to have direct access to the board chairman and the project manager for detailed, up-to-date reports on the DHC. We have come to the main meat of the matter, consolidating the Bille Kingdom developmental status. This one poses the questions: what do we do to enhance development? That is where we are, and we are speaking on that one. I believe you will agree no less with us that the Bille Kingdom developmental agenda haven't evolved from our present developmental approach to the adoption of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We are or should now be thinking about consolidating and or sustaining the Kingdom's developmental goals by fine-tuning our objectives with a view to making a robust expansion of our developmental agenda to accommodate our constituent communities on the basis of effective inclusivity. We should also consider maintaining or leaving our development agenda on a solid footing, particularly looking at ways and means of exploring more possible opportunities and approaches to attracting more capital facilities like the national power grid and the building of bridges, etc., to boost our growth and general well-being. In this regard, we should particularly consider alleviating poverty by creating employment for our people. Therefore, to consolidate the Bille Kingdom developmental agenda, we must necessarily look for and very possibly identify areas for cooperation, synergy, or otherwise between our set out developmental goals, prioritize our action plan based on need, and assess their interconnectedness, as well as pursue collaboration amongst diverse stakeholders at the local, state, national, and international levels respectively. The focus is to strike a balance between human capital and infrastructural development. Take steps geared towards increasing income generation to provide for empowerment of small and medium-scale traders to grow their businesses, and bursary to aid students to pursue higher education. All this will aim at building strong partnership with government, civil society organizations, business, etc., to create a unified approach in the consolidation of our beloved kingdom. To achieve our aim, the region for the kingdom's development agenda must understand the following keys for consolidated growth/development of the kingdom status. One way to achieve that is A, articulating interconnections of sustainable development goals. This will require knowledge of how the different SDGs influence each other. It also requires preparing scale of preference in line with our priority. For example, a youth empowerment scheme to provide for skill, etc., and that of giving grants or bursary to students. Both schemes aim at human capital development and wealth creation ultimately. But where we draw up a well-articulated priority list as to what we want and know which one to forgo for the other, the better it will be for our development. Therefore, in addition to our drawing up our social preferences, we should also consider the focus on and pursuing SDGs that are broad-based. For example, the presence of energy resource or power has capacity for enabling technical skills and income for all kinds of artisans as well as small-scale businesses like barbing, restaurants, operations, and clothing, etc., and should form the bedrock of our developmental goals. It is this consideration that has influenced the consideration for the power resource and the potable water scheme under the HCDT. Here, what we are basically looking at is their interconnectedness. Now, like the example we gave here, if you look at aiding technical skills and giving undergraduates scholarship. At the end, what you get is human capacity development. But to effectively harness and optimize or maximize our resources, it will be better we take a closer look and prioritize between engineers, between doctors, between lawyers. Where is our interest the most secure? If we do that way, we might say, okay, give 2 lawyers, give 3 doctors, 2 engineers, and maybe 1 artisan. You balance the equation because it's interconnected. The same thing goes for the consideration to do power. You know that virtually every economic activity rests on power. So if you're able to address power successfully, barbers, technicians, restroom dealers, all kinds of trades are hinged on that. That's the point you're making there. Foster collaboration and partnership. Under this subheading, the focus is to look for and encourage stakeholder engagement by bringing together diverse interest groups, such as the various levels of government, non-governmental organizations, companies, sole enterprises, etc., to share expertise and contribute resources to enhance development. Of course, deliberate steps to support local and grassroots organizations to understand the needed social and environmental dimension, take center stage as foremost community developmental project, and ensure or support the need to implement community development. Suffice it to state here that the requisite collaboration has commenced. As we now speak, the auspices of the HCDT has collaborated with Niger Delta Development Commission for rural electrification of our constituent communities and the Bille town, headquarters of Bille Kingdom, and the projects are all ongoing, while the water project for Bille town has been completed. Here we are saying the development of Bille Kingdom should have partners. And who are the partners we should look at? We have our immediate local government around us. We have the states, and at the center, the federal government and international community, including non-governmental organizations. Today, this platform seeks to appeal to all of us, because all of us that are seated here, our contacts are broad-based. What contact you have, I may not have. What contact he has, he does not have. So if we must grow the developmental agenda of our kingdom, we need to harness all these resources. We need to get people to speak to people in local government, to people at the state level, to people within the non-governmental agency, under USAID and several other spots. That's the way to go. Promote enabling policies and investment. As a mark of consolidating sustainable development, it is essential to promote enabling policies and investment within the kingdom. It will therefore be wise to implement policies like financial incentives and support for resources to drive productivity. This may take the form of shifting away from stringent measures for community empowerment, vis-a-vis giving reasonable length of time to recover loans, where community loans were given. It is also contemplated that the promoting of friendly policies. Such loans may from time to time be given interest-free to the beneficiaries to aid productivity and growth, as well as put in place measures that can secure transparency and record progress made to demonstrate commitment to contribute effectively to the SDGs agenda. Here, what are we saying? Friendly policies. We know how financially backward our traders back at home is. So if there is some little largesse, it will be out of place for us, particularly those who are running the HCDT, and give token sums to business women to aid their business. And by way of friendly policy, we can also look at the nature of their business. If they are to return it, sometimes we put a transparent mechanism in place where we ensure that the money can be readily returned, and to ensure that sometimes we leave it interest-free so that it will not be too tight for them. That is the framework of policy mechanism we are looking at here. Strengthening solidarity of the kingdom. To strengthen the solidarity of the kingdom, the administrative agencies or bodies of the kingdom charged with development must be seen to be manned by people of integrity, such that promises made to achieve SDGs are sure to be kept faithfully. This, if done, will refresh and renew trust in the system and strengthen the much-needed solidarity and consolidation of the SDGs. Also, in the interest of consolidating the overall development of the kingdom, there should be need to channel financial support to some of our disadvantaged towns, particularly the least developed ones, such as Krikama, to help build its capacity. What are we saying here? To consolidate, we must put people that have integrity, people that have the requisite competence to be there, so that when they commit to promises, they say promise kept, promises made are promises kept. So that's how they put it. I can't say correctly again. But if we are seen to be leaders in a system like that, and we make promises, and those promises are not really followed through, rather they always and often turn out to disappointment, then it will become a problem for the community and the people to trust our system. Also, in strengthening and consolidating the kingdom, there is also need that the local player within the community must be seen to understand the dynamics of what is happening. If there is no adequate or there is insufficient feedback to them, you see them grumble, you see them complain, you see them raise allegations and accusations against you. There was this day I was watching a program where some of our youths in Bille were cleaning the drainages by the side of the palace. And I heard them loud and clear grumbling. When I'm up here, that points to the fact that they have not been fully integrated to appreciate or understand the goals that are being pursued by their leaders. I have come to the conclusion of my lectures, and I'm closing on the note that in the light of the above evaluation, it is self-evident that the Bille Kingdom status as an empire, or to say the least, a distinct kingdom in its own right, has long been acknowledged, but it only remains for the government to put its seal of identification on the status. Again, as development being a continuous process, we should consider development at all levels. Therefore, to justify the consolidation of the Bille Kingdom developmental status, the Bille people have prioritized the development of the kingdom as second to none, and their development strides are as full as their existence. Thus, prior to and since the emergence of multinational oil exploration companies down to this era of the Petroleum Industry Act, there have been very strong and positive developmental efforts with legacy projects on ground that beg for consolidation, and that it is the import of the team of the second Flagship Journal award to couch, and it is the import of the team of the second Flagship Journal Biennial award as couched by the organizers. Once again, I very happily thank the Flagship Journal for giving me the opportunity to stand before this August audience to deliver this keynote address. Long live the Kingdom and God bless you.